All right, welcome in, guys, to the Chief Zone podcast. My name is Farzin Vasugian. Hope you're all having a great day. This is a very exciting weekend. We are going to have not one, but two Chiefs Hall of Famers on our podcast this weekend. This is truly an honor and very excited to do this. So little time to waste. Let's get to it. Very honored to have this guy on our podcast. He is a Chiefs Hall of Famer, was part of the Marty Ball, the great Chiefs defense in the 90s. Please welcome in Chiefs Hall of Famer Neil Smith to the podcast. Neil, it's an honor to have you. Thank you for your time. How are you, sir?
Thank you very much. I'm doing pretty good, actually. I just got through finished doing my line, so if you see me sweating a little bit, grabbing some water, that's because I had walked a little bit. But yeah, I'm getting better, man. I doing wonderful, things that's broken on my body, getting them fixed and getting them taken care of. I had a major surgery here back in December, and a back surgery that was really exclusive, and it's good to just be up and going again. I feel, feeling a little bit and feel a lot better. I had a chance last night to go out to Coach Andy Reid's event with the Special Olympics. I know how special that is to Coach Reid and also to me too, because it was one of the first foundations that I was involved in way back in the early '80s. And our late great Julius Buck Buchanan introduced me to that and walked me in and said, "This is where you need to be at. They need some help." And man, it just take one time, as Coach Reid said last night, one time to go to one of those events, and it would change your life about how life is in the inside of one of those kids. And so happy for them, and I'm so happy to be there to support them last night too.
That's awesome. That's great. I used to work with kids with special needs, so I certainly understand that. So it's great that you were a part of that with Coach Andy Reid there. To go back to your back surgery, I can understand that because my dad had that. I want to say about 10 or 11 years ago. So I certainly understand the procedure and the recovery process and all of that. How are you feeling along the way?
I feel really good now. I'm glad you asked me this here. So many months later. It was a exclusive one for sure. Definitely an eye opener when you can't feel your lower extremity and now you can get up and walk and do some things again. It makes you makes you feel good about that the process that's done. A great job with those guys over at KU that took care of me. Did a really good job of helping me to get to where I'm at right now.
And by the way, if you're sweating still from the lawn work, don't worry about it. I mean, we understand the
Oh,
humidity in the Midwest is awful.
that's all good. It's a part of me. I'm always sweating, man. That's why I still have my old chief gear on where it's got the old sweat top thing where it sweats through and
Oh,
everything under his dress. So it makes me feel like I'm out there again. So it's a good warm
that's
feeling.
awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Neil, there's a lot I want to talk to you about your time with Kansas City. Also, get your thoughts on the Chiefs right now, and also, if we're being honest, the fact that you're not in the Hall of Fame, I think, is a pretty big deal. So I want to get into all of that. Before we do that, I know you're involved with a lot of things off the field and the Kansas City community. I know you talked about being part of Coach Andy Reid's event the other night. You've got a lot of things going on yourself with the Derrick Thomas and Neil Smith Third and Long Foundation. And you guys are also raffling off Derrick Thomas Mercedes, teaming up with the Duran Cherry Foundation. Talk about that, if you will, please.
Well, first of all, I want to thank one of my teammates, Deron Cherry, and his foundation. What great job he's done. And John, to be honest with you, Deron was one of the guys that really took me and Derek Thomas under our wings when we started the foundation. And the most important part is that he's been giving back ever since. His foundations have been solid. We've been there anytime he's actually been a big brother to me, in a sense. I'm one of the guys that paved the way, showed the people the way, showed teammates the way, the right way to go and doing things. He's a great businessman. Have a great family. Big part of him. And as one of the guys I just love to death, man, and for him to step up and to help us along with his foundation to move this Mercedes. That one guy was a great friend of Derek, and he actually bought the vehicle right after Derek passed and held it and never driven it, and this took care of it over 25 years. We have an opportunity now to raffle that off to someone. So someone lucky is going to raffle that car off and get that car, automobile, and in the name of Derek Thomas is one of his first cars he ever gotten, and I can see him every time in that car. But it means a lot to us. It's life is so short. We in some strange times, but yet we still persevere and go forward in life and doing a great thing. So I'm happy that Deron's done that, and I'm happy that the Third and Long Foundation, the proceeds, and most of it will go towards us. So and it's just for help us, to keep the 58 kids that we go every year, try to give scholarships away. We give, every year we do a golf tournament. And I encourage you, go to Third and Long Foundation, look on the website. We have a lot of things that we do involve throughout the years. Besides the golf tournament, we give a Derrick Thomas award away to the male athlete of the year in sports that persevere in giving away some of the stuff that you can doing off the field and in school. And a certain thing with me, with the I have the ladies award, the same award that I give away to the recipients that's in high school, that's a senior that can win this award. So go on there, link in there. It's easy to get in and out of it and find out what we're doing, and maybe we can help some of your kids, or maybe we can help you. So this is what we're here. This is what being in Kansas City has been all about since I've been in 1987.
And if you guys want any more information on all of that, you can go to thirdandlong.org. Third is spelled THIRD without the numerical. So thirdandlong.org. And if anyone's interested in being part of the Derrick Thomas Mercedes raffle, we have it right now on the screen on Facebook and YouTube for those watching the video version. Just take a screenshot of that QR code, or if you're watching on your smart TV, your computer, get your phone out right now and scan that QR code. And tickets are starting at $100. And you've got yourself a chance to win a Mercedes raffle. And if I'm not mistaken, the manual is signed by Derrick Thomas. Is that correct?
That is so correct. He signed the owner's menu. Matter of fact, I don't know if the guy know, when he opened up the menu, I could see that he signed the back and the front of it. So it's two autographs on there. Yeah, and being teammates, I've only gotten one thing. One gentleman walked up to me one time and gave me one of their, I guess he heard me say that I've never gotten an opportunity to get a Derrick Thomas autograph, because we were such great friends. We were such great teammates, and we were so competitive with each other. And he walked up to me, man, and he handed me something. He said, "I think you would love this." And I think it was the tribe, not what was the tribe, it was the Operation Sack. And I have that poster signed by Derrick, and I signed it myself and put it on my wall. So I can always have something that Derrick had too. So this is a great opportunity to have as a vehicle, man. This is really special. I think someone will really cherish it, and hopefully it gets in some good hands and someone can take care of it.
That's awesome. And I know you've been connecting with a lot of former Chiefs over the years. You're part of the Chiefs Ambassadors Club. I love hearing stories about the Chiefs Ambassadors Club. Talk about that and your involvement with that group.
Well, man, I tell you what, great individual group, man. You got some of our founders. I call them founders. We call them the GOAT. You got Bobby Bell. You got, a whole bunch of guys that's been through here. That's always be contributive to. It started back in the days with Walter White and them, and they started a group, and they wanted to have a close knit group that was a football team that's away from the organization, but yet still with the organization and helping the organization in so many different ways and so many angles, that if they ever needed us, they would call us. And man, we team up with the Chiefs, and they did such a great job of helping us, being involved with us, letting us be a part of them and still be in the family. And to them, we thank them. And every year, every year they feel good. We can go to Super Bowls and compete and have bragging rights with things that we haven't had, as a player here. But yet, times have changed. We got one of the greatest, football teams and the greatest coaches, and one of the greatest players that ever lived, ever going to play the game here. And he got a lot of years left in him, and Patrick Mahomes, and what Travis does, and Chris Jones, and man, those four guys with Andy Reid, and that team has just been super over the years, and it's good football to watch. So, and I'm happy to be a part of it throughout the years.
One last thing before we start talking about your time with the Chiefs, you do have one event that's taking place this Saturday. It is the 5K run at Arrowhead, and you're going to be doing it with another fellow Chiefs Hall of Famer, Tamba Hali. What time does that begin?
I think that the race is going to start somewhere between 8:30 and 9 o'clock. I know we
Okay.
have to be out there early enough, to get there. So yeah, they're gonna run the 5K. They're gonna run around both of the stadiums. That's funny because we used to do that way back in the days, and it's good to see that. That's a great track. And you know what? For runners, it's pretty easy. When I first did it, I didn't run it all. I walked it, and then of course, I then started to get myself in shape because it's around the time we would start going back to camp. So I did the race and get the run. So it's pretty good. It's a pretty good. To all the runners, if you if you not doing anything, please come out and support this. This is be a great cause, and get a chance to see and shake hands and take pictures with me and Tama, another young man that I kind of like. Man, this kid was pretty super special. Was a great pass rusher. Was great for our defense, and over the years we had a lot of great outside rushers, and Tama is definitely up there. He's definitely up there on the top.
I'm sure you've been asked this many times, and I try not to ask questions that a lot of people have gotten on other interviews and podcasts and whatnot, but I can't have you on and not ask this. And I know, understand this is probably the most asked question you get, but what was your relationship like with Derrick Thomas, both on the field and off the field?
It was like brothers. I took Derrick under my wings, and I've only was 1 year ahead of him. It was asked by Marty, like, hey, you know what, you guys gonna be special. You're gonna be the part of the team. The big part of the ball club that we want you to conduct yourself. We want you to act, and you guys grow together and learn each other and stick with each other. So I was just, it was just Marty and Bill Cowher, stepped up and asked me, to do this, and without a hesitation, I went on and did it. I went and did it because I could, and man, Derrick was a very quiet guy coming out of Alabama. Didn't say very much, and boy, I'll tell you what, when his skill level was off the chain, and when I played, when I played in college, I played a defensive tackle. I don't know if people knew that. And I changed my position to defensive end because I knew I was an edge rusher. I knew I had what the great guys that I was watching throughout the years when I was in college, the Bruce Smith, the Reggie Whites, the Chris Hinton, all of those guys when I was in college. And when I got to the pros, I was saying, whoever draft me as a defensive end, because that's the position I really knew I was an outside guy. Had an opportunity to play the first time when I went to the Japan. It was the All-Star game in Japan, and I won MVP in that game, and I end up with 3.5 sacks and 4 sacks. And then I goes over to Hawaii and win MVP in Hulu Bowl. So, and I end up with like 3 or 4 sacks, and all of a sudden, my stock went from early late first round, and the Chiefs moved up a spot to get me. They actually had the third pick, in Detroit had the second pick, with Atlanta was the first pick in the draft that year. And the Chiefs picked me number one. But the funny thing about this whole deal is that being picked was very special. But I only got one call that night. It was from Al Davis. I never forget it. I was in New York, and Al Davis called me in my room and said, hey, we're going to pick you number one tomorrow. Don't say anything. And I'm like, well, thank you, Mr. Davis. It's so nice, for you to call this and that. And man, I was just like, I just started to stutter. I never stuttered in my life because you hear about these guys, and all of a sudden, they calling you and it existing. But I don't know if I got the wing out, and it was supposed to be meant to be. But I called my mother, and before I called my mother and told her, because she didn't come to the draft in New York, before I called it, it was already in the news back in New Orleans. So all of that must have shook the Chiefs and say, hey, you know what? I think they might be trying to get Neil, so we better jump ahead of them just in case they can't. So I was either going to end up at Atlanta, which would have been the number one pick, but I ended up being a second pick overall because of the Chiefs movement, and it went really quick. And this is the place I should have been. It's no question. I have my kids. I still live here. It's a place that you can settle in and grow a family. I was married, and man, I'm just blessed in so many different ways that, I have 9 grandkids, and I'm not even 60 yet. So what a blessing God gave me, and to be here. And this is why I contribute. This is why I'm here. The platform that I had, we utilized it. Me and Derrick did to the fullest. I mean, we competed against everything. The guy was he was so loving and caring and giving. He was waiting for his time. I've never seen a football player that can't that that don't that hated practice, but the game meant so much to him, and he can impact it in so many different ways. And I kind of learned from Derrick in the beginning, but I got tired of giving him my money, so I had to do something about it after the first 3 years. So the 2 years I had to give him my money, then I had to put a stop to it. Then I'm like, okay, so 92, 93 or whatever, I've gotten MVP, and I stepped it up. I set my game up all because of him, because I just got tired of paying him my damn money.
I'm glad you mentioned the draft, your draft situation, because I do want to go back to that. You mentioned Detroit. They were kind of up there early in the first round. Is it true that Kansas City moved one spot ahead to get you because they found out Detroit wanted you?
Either Detroit wanted to get me, and then the Raiders was right behind them. I knew for sure the Raiders wanted me because they called me that night. So I don't know. You say it's private, but it's really not private. And you know, looking at that draft, I didn't know this until this year, and it's been a long time coming. The kid that was there, back in the days, they would have somebody sitting there, and they answer the phone, the little phone, they answer the phone,
Yeah.
whatever team, whatever player you want to pick. Well, lo and behold, I found out who was on that phone by himself, and that was Clark. I mean Clark. So I was our CEO right now. Clark said that he was the one that answered that call, and he was there. That was the first one. That's the first one he ever did. And man, what that meant to me was so special because I never knew. You don't know these things until people speak on it.
Yeah.
And when he told me that, it blew me away. It just blew me away. And so I was his first call that he got, and he wasn't even the owner. His dad was the owner. So, but it was just a great experience. He was heading for to be where he was at now with this program. And man, what a great organization to be a part of. The Hunt family has done something special here in Kansas City, and they knew it. They did it with the movement of Carl Peterson and Marty Schottenheimer and the coaches. And then when Coach Reed and them come in and taking over, they've taken it to another whole different level. And it's so good to feel that you're a part of something that's special.
Well, Carl and Marty, I mean, they did such a great job with roster construction. I know Carl's time in Kansas City did not end well, but I've always said he deserves a lot of credit for, as well as Marty Schottenheimer, for revamping that organization because they were struggling in the 70s and 80s. I mean, you've had so many great teammates on that defense, and that defense still gets talked about to this day. What was it like? Yourself, Derrick Thomas, Bill Moss, Deron Cherry. I mean, so many great guys on that defense. What was that group of defensive players like?
Man, we were special, man. I mean, when I first came here in the secondary there was four All Pros.
Yeah.
Kevin Ross, Albert Lewis, Deron Cherry, Lord Burrs. All those guys made Pro Bowls, and they all was one that was to be reckoned with. And I think that Morty and them knew that they had something special in the secondary, but they needed to get some youth in here along with the veteran guys, and that's when they drafted Derrick because I was here of the year before, but his first draft was Derrick Thomas. I mean, and well should have been. What a great pick that was to find him. And I never forget my uncle even told me about Derrick Thomas way before I even knew Derrick, and I told him this story that he played against LSU. And single-handedly, he won the game by himself. And my uncle said, "I've never seen a guy take over a game like this." And I said, "Well, I'm waiting to see this when he get here." And I saw it, and I saw all of it. What a special specimen, man. I mean, the guy could turn the corner on a dime. Great hustle. I mean, he got great endurance. I mean, he can. I mean, he was for his size, he was strong. And a lot of people didn't know that. A lot of people think he couldn't play the run. If he could have played the run if he wanted to, and he played it very well. In our 3-4 defense was his. I wasn't really attached to that, but that's why I think Bill Carroll left because he was a 3-4 guy. But what we had a great time, man. I mean, the defense that I had, the guys that were so special in there, man. Danny Salamore. You had Tracy Simmons. All of those guys. I look back and I say, man, we'd have had a great offense. If we'd had any type of offense, we could have very well. But when you with a defensive coach like Marty Schottenheimer, Coach Schottenheimer, you gotta pay attention to details, and that was the only thing we was lacking. Not to say the guys that we didn't play had great offense, but we had a number one defense for like 5 years out of the '90s. It's
Yeah.
like, how could you miss? When you have that, that special. That's what you need, and we thought we can win in the '90s, which is the running league back then with that type of defense. And we had a great chance of doing it. And we just fell a little short, but yet we had an opportunity, and that's all you need is just an opportunity.
You obviously had Marty Schottenheimer as your head coach. You also had Bill Cowher as your defensive coordinator. I mean, what a head coach and a defensive coordinator to have. And obviously, Cowher went on to do so many great things and is in the Hall of Fame. What was it like having those two coaches guiding you along the way?
Man, Bill Cowher was funny. He was young. He was enthusiasm. He can make you run through this wall, with his players, and that's just how he coached it. Yeah. He let the player make him. And he always said that. He said, you know what, my job is easy. You guys just do what you do, and we'll make it happen. I'm going to put you in the places for you guys to make the plays. And it was enough for everybody. So that's what it was. I mean, I've played under some great coaches, man. I mean, you look at that. In the 90s, we had Coach Dungy,
Yeah.
we had Bill Cowher, we had AB. Bruce Aaron. He was there. I mean, all these people that was a part of us, and it was position coaches. So he had a great tree that he came up on, and those guys will end up winning championships. In other places. So, good. I've been around great football all my life. Didn't really take this football thing seriously until I got to the University of Nebraska. I just thought I was a part of high school football and sports in general because I was a jock. I was a junkie. I could do everything. I could run track. I could jump. I play basketball. I can play baseball. Never hit a golf ball but one time in my life. And when I hit one, the golf coach at my junior high school said, "You need to put up with all of this. I'm gonna make you out a golfer. You're never gonna get hurt, and you're gonna make a lot of money." And well, this is the game I play now. I'm trying to pick this golf game up, and it's very frustrating. But you know what? I've gotten better every year. So now I'm falling into that. I do a lot of golfing. I can't wait to get back into golfing because I love it so much.
We're going to have your teammate Bill Moss on the podcast tomorrow. You're a Hall of Famer. He just got named to the Hall of Fame, the Chiefs Hall of Fame, that is. What are your thoughts on him finally getting that induction?
Well, bad boys get in too. There's some room for bad boys. I mean, Bill was a hell of a freaking player, and Bill Moss. But that group that I came up on, and I had dinner with him back here with him and some of our old teammates. Mike Bell was there, and a bunch of guys. Dino Hackett was in there. Good to see him for so many years. But those are characters, man. I mean, those guys set the standard. I was their protege. They brought me up. I played with them, and they brought me up and showed me that what, either gonna be a leader or a follower. Why not be a leader? And Bill, I'll never forget when I got introduced to the NFL, and I made a tackle, and I looked down, and it was a guy that was down there. I helped him pick him up, and I was like, man, that's Tony Dorsett. And I was like, that's Tony Dorsett. And then I'm like, and all of a sudden I just get snatched from the back of my shirt and get cursed out. And it was Bill Moss. You get back in this huddle. You don't help no individual up. You just that. I'm just getting blown. I said, hey man, I said that's Tony Dorsett, man. What are you talking about? So I grew up being a Dallas fan back in the days. I'm trying to explain to this guy that I just met one of my heroes, and you tell me I can't help him up. I'm like, man, so that was one of the last person I helped that I had, on the on the opposite team, but I have a lot of teammates up. But Bill and them, they didn't play, man. They played hard. It was fun. And congratulations to him and so many other guys, well as deserving of it. And I'm sure that day gonna come. Everything is about timing, man.
Yeah.
Bill was a great analyst, and afterwards, and he now he works for Block. He'll tell you that he's done some great things, and just a fun cat, man. Fun cat. It was so funny. He married his wife, his second wife, and that he have now, and she was a special ed teacher. And it was rightfully so that she's a special ed teacher because Bill is something special to deal with. So I'm gonna leave it at that. I'm gonna
Um,
leave it at that. Bill is a special guy, man. Real special.
well, you are in the Chiefs Hall of Fame. You're not in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Your last season that you played was in 2000 with the San Diego Chargers. I mean, just looking at your resume, you made first team All Pro once. You have 4 All Pros in total to your name, 6 Pro Bowls. You're on the 90s All Decade team, 2 Super Bowls under your belt as well. What's going on? Why haven't you been in Canton yet?
Well, I don't know. I guess I took the wrong road. When social media came, I was one that didn't embrace it. and didn't do anything like this, what you should do when you have a platform such as yours to go out and voice your opinion on how you feel. I have no idea why I'm not in there. The numbers speak for itself. They say, what, if somebody had to, a game plan for you. Can you change the game over? Yes. And then also play with great guys that was around me. So very well, you could be missing, but my numbers don't lie. You know what I'm saying? The numbers should speak for itself. And I can say one thing, there is, in timing, like I said, timing is everything. I would love to be here and not be gone, if my name was called, because that's the kind of stuff that you can enjoy at the time, going around and doing different things, and getting into your last halls. I've been in, to every one of them halls, different halls of fame, but that one is special, because it's a special group. So, and every year they call names. I look at some of the guys that, been waiting, and there's still some guys out there, I know played against, that's well deserving too, and they're waiting. So eventually, it'll happen. It happens to one of my great friends. He was also there. I mean, he got in this year, was, Sterling Sharp. And Sterling, was a hell of a player, and he finally gone in. So I think it'll come. I just need some push, and I'm sure the Chiefs knows, and everybody knows that I put that jersey on. I put it on for a reason and a purpose, and it was fun doing it. And I just want them to just look at the page, pick it up, and read it.
Well, I mean, it does take some guys a long time. I think recency, you mentioned timing. I think recency bias plays a huge role in some of these, fair or not. I mean, that's just kind of the way things go. It took Derrick Thomas a really long time. I know we've mentioned his name a couple of times, Deron Cherry. He was on the 80s all-decade team, and I think he's one of 3 or 4 players on the defensive side of the all-decades team who's not in Canton yet. So I don't know. I do kind of worry for players that maybe played in the 90s, 80s, and 70s. I mean, I hate to use this term, but it kind of feels like the longer we get away from those eras,
forget them.
Yeah, they get forgotten about.
Yeah, you do, man. Now if you look at it, the kids, that watch you, and people that watch you now, they're late. They're going into their 30s and 40s. So time is the next. People don't know. They only know the new players, and that's how it goes. So they got to have. They'll do better. Hopefully, they can do better, and then have an opportunity for someone else to get in before it's too late.
I think what they need to do, and I know they want to keep it rare, exclusive, but because we have more and more players coming, and there are still a lot of great players from the past who haven't gotten in, I think they maybe need to expand the number of inductees every year. Because I mean,
Well,
you
can
said,
definitely do that, and and just cut down the time that they're speaking at, because the time they speak takes up most of the program, and I think that's why they do it, because I think they give people what 20 or 30 minutes to speak, and that's a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a long time. You don't have to say much if you be there. You just do the thank yous, and and how you got there. It's a story, and everybody have a different one.
Well, make your case. I know you mentioned some parts of your resume, but why should the voters put you in?
Well, my case is simply this. I played the game, not for to get to the Hall of Fame, but I played the game because I love the game. And you look at the love first for the sport, and the respect. And it wasn't about the money; it was about the passion. And when I started to know, and you start to hear from other people, the media especially, that this guy one day gonna be in Canton. I can hear people saying it. If you go back and watch the film, you hear some of the late announcements that said it, and so it kind of rang a little bit. And then I really didn't really look into it until, like, okay, well, yeah, my numbers is good enough, and I'm gonna make the case that I should be there. I did win 2 Super Bowls, and I was with some number one groups. Yes, people did have to. They have to account for me in many games, because if you didn't count for me, then Derrick's gonna get you. If you didn't count for Derrick, then I'll get you. So it was a combo situation that I can make my case so many different ways that I should be there. And then the numbers will not lie, and they don't lie.
All right. Well, hopefully it happens. We'll put it out there. Let's get some noise. Let's get some traction on this. So we'll see. I do want to ask, obviously you've talked about how special Kansas City was to your time here in Kansas City. How difficult was it leaving Kansas City and moving on to Denver?
I never thought about this. It was a leaving thing because I never left. I never moved my family. We was always here. I had opened up a place of business that I was a restaurant that I was in, and I was very comfortable where I'm at. And when I went up and talked to Marty and them, it was basically saying that that they thought my better years was behind me, and I was like, I never thought it was. I didn't think that I was ready to be in. I mean, again, eventually people slow down at the end of their career, but then I thought you can have some borrowed time, but it sparked me up, and it hurt me very much because if they would ask me to take a pay cut, I probably would have stood, because I was so comfortable. But then I started thinking about, what? There's other teams, there's other ways, there's other pathways. Sometimes you got to get out of your comfort zone, and God moved you for a reason. He moved you for a purpose. He would never, and I just gave it to him. He would never guide me to where I shouldn't or would not go or be. And I trusted in that. And then for me, I never picked it one time to get back at the advanced team that I played with the Chiefs. I picked it because it was one of the last things someone said, and I took several trips, throughout the free agency. The first year, that was the very first year of free agency, several trips to different teams, and everybody was talking about the money that they did not have. But there was only one player that spoke and said that if they get us on this team, then it was Steve Atwater. He said we would win the Super Bowl. And that was the first time I've heard that throughout all the 8 trips that I've taken to different teams. Jerry Jones came down here and picked me up downtown Kansas City Airport, flew me all the way to Miami. Me and him flew all the way to Florida to have lunch with Dion and back. We talked football. Want to talk to me to get to be in there. And I just gave it to God, man. I just told him, I said, hey, I want you to lead me. And when Steve Atwater said that, it was special to me. I mean, it hit something I've never heard of. And then, a cold breath of air came up my back, and that was the answer. I knew it was where I need to be at, and I just accepted what God asked me to do. Um, Playing against my team is hard. Any it's a job, it's a business. But when you go and play against a team that the ones that you love, that you just feel like you just left, I mean, I look at the commercial or one of the basketball commercials on TV, and one of the guys left and they said, "Hey, they threw him a Villanova head." I never forget what one it is, but it brought me to that moment, man. It's something it just stays in you that you never. I didn't want to come back to play here, but I was like, man, I got to go do my job. But I said, if I get a sack, I will never swing a bat here, and I made that promise to myself, and I didn't do it. So. Um, I just, it was, here, it was just, it's special, it was something where you first thought it was the beginning, but it was not the end to where I needed to be at and what I need to go into in life. But it's a place that I'm back. I've been back here and never left, as people would say. Um, and I never will leave, probably. So this is home. New Orleans is where I'm from. The University of Nebraska is where I made myself at. And thank God I have a son that's up there now. He's playing there, and and this is this and that's where I'm gonna be at. So I enjoy everything about Kansas City.
When you were in Denver, you won the Super Bowl, I believe, back to back years. And that is such a difficult thing to do in the NFL. The Chiefs had 2 opportunities to win back to back 2019 and 2020. They obviously fell in Super Bowl 55, but they were able to make up for that when they won Super Bowl 57 and Super Bowl 58. Came very close to the three-peat, but obviously this past Super Bowl did not really go their way at all.
Yeah.
But the amount of success the Chiefs have had, reaching the AFC Championship all 7 years with Patrick Mahomes, being able to win back to back, almost winning back to back even before that, it's just very difficult to do and sustain that kind of success. What does it take for a team to be able to pull that off, to have back to back Super Bowl seasons and trying to continue that success at a high level?
Man, I think it starts with the leaders. It starts with the core of veteran leaders that they have, and Patrick was one before he even got here. When he put that uniform on, I was told that that you wait to see this guy when he started playing. They held him back, and they held him back until it was like, okay, they gave him that ring, and ever since then he just has success. Sometimes it takes that along with a Travis Kelsey, and then a Chris Jones on defense, and it takes veteran players to speak up. Like Coach said last night, he said, to speak up and to get the other guys to come with you. And I never changed when I went to Denver. I never changed one bit. I stood and spoke the way I wanted to speak, as I've been there all year, and I was told to do that, but they didn't have to tell me that because that's who I was. I've always was a leader. So, but then you have followers. You got a group of young guys that you have to touch and be involved in, and that's what the veteran players are there for. And if they can get them in line and how to do it, and they see the player do it, you can't just talk it. You got to spend that extra time. I'll tell people the reason why I was so great and was so good what I did, we spend the extra time. Me and Derrick, when we fell asleep watching film, we'll wake up. We knew everything about a player, every move we were going to make, and what we're going to work on this week against this guy. What is his weakness, his strength, and his weakness? And, back when we played, it was a lot of talking games. So we talked a lot of smack too, and it was fun. But, of course, the game changed now. So, but yet I'm saying that's what makes great players and great teammates because those veteran guys, it means a lot. The leaders, that's why the success they had has been because Coach Reed yet put them in place to be there, and you have veteran players such as those guys to make it happen.
I've got to ask this. I've had a couple of your former teammates on, and I've asked about this moment. But in 1990, that moment where the Broncos are backed up against their own end zone, and you and your Chiefs teammates, you guys are making all kinds of noise. The crowd's getting into it, and John Elway steps away and asks the referee to silence the crowd. You obviously became teammates with John Elway, so I know your perspective may or may not be different. But what was that moment like when you saw him trying to get the ref to lower the noise crowd?
Nobody wanted to play an Arrowhead. And everybody knows now you don't want to play an Arrowhead. And Arrowhead made a movement that there was going to be the best, loudest fans in the world. And I have never been to a soccer match that had 100,000 people that make as much noise as that, as the Chief fans. What I could tell you is that from my perspective, hearing it, before we used to have what they call astroturf on the field. And I'm telling you, it used to be a humming sound that was deafening to a player. We had to find out how to do sign language very quick because you couldn't hear nothing. So it was it's special because you could utilize it. And me and Derrick utilized every bit of it. We'll jump a snap count. Yeah, we might be outside, one or two times, but we're gonna try to get the sack when we needed it, and we're gonna try to make you lose yards when you needed it because it was our advantage. And I think that's where we are now today. Snap counts. You. I usually something hit me when I was playing one time. I got to tell you this story that when I was getting off on the ball and I was getting off on the ball and they changed the snap count and I was getting off on the ball and I caught myself and then the offensive lineman jumped. So when he jumped, they said offside offense. I was like, that's something I can use. Yeah, well, offside was in on the offense, and I just kept that. Just like, man, this guy moved, and I didn't even move out of my stand. So I developed the flinch. So I used to make people jump offside, and they knew the snap count, but I didn't. So when I felt like it was third and short, we're gonna go third and short, and then I utilize it because you have to sit there and got to worry about me getting a jump on you. No offensive lineman like that. They do not like to get that first step. And man, we had great first steps on people because we knew how to get there and some of the tips that we used and saw that we used to our advantage to get off on the football. Looked like we was always offside when everybody else wasn't, but we rode when we had to, and that was the fun part of it.
Hearing you say all those things about Arrowhead, I've got to ask you. I know Wednesday night, early Thursday morning, the Senate in Missouri voted to approve of a bill to help fund the Chiefs and the Royals, and it seems like it's going to be an official bill. It's going to turn into a law very soon, but it's not quite done yet. When you hear all of these discussions about the Chiefs possibly leaving Arrowhead, maybe even getting a dome, what's your reaction to that?
Well, it just takes away the history of what you accomplished and where you at. What they said, if it's not broke, don't fix it. But of course, we get a lot of slack about the stadium not doing this and that. I don't think the fans care. I think it's more the league than anybody. I think they've done a very good job of redoing that stadium and the bowl and stuff. Do they need some upgrades? Probably so. But yet, because when you got these, these billion-dollar stadiums and Super Bowls going to that, if we are going to ever get a Super Bowl here, we would have to build more hotels. There's a lot that have to be involved in this. So I just hope that we don't leave our sacred ground. It's almost like the Indians. It's sacred ground. You don't want to leave that spot to go find it somewhere else, and we don't have the same success. But if they have to, that's a business part of it. And I know when Lamar Hunt, he spoke upon how he wants to build a stadium like, where everybody can sit down and look down upon it. He was saying that where the sound can come. That was his architect move. For you to put a top over it, that might be something that his son might want to do, and that's fine with it. But yet, Clark, they'll make the right decisions. I just hope that I don't have to go to Kansas to watch a football game when I only live 4 exits away, here in Lee Summit. So we'll see. We'll see where it goes from here. But
Oh, Neil, I got a couple
they'll
questions
make all the
left.
right decisions, I'm sure.
Just a couple of questions left with you, Neil. I do want to ask you about a couple of guys on defense. Chris Jones, I mean, he's really made his mark in Chiefs history, becoming one of the best players to play defense in the franchise history, joining guys like yourself and Derrick Thomas and several other great defensive players over the years. What do you see in Chris Jones, and what makes him unique?
Chris Jones first got some good upsides. What a big specimen. I mean, the guy, he's tall, he's big, and he's very athletic. And he can do it up and down the line of scrimmage. Now, that's something I wanted to do, but I couldn't do it, because I started inside. Like I said, I played tackle, but yeah, Chris can play inside and out. And when you can do that, especially at this game now, because they're throwing the ball in every play, I would love to play during this time, man. It would be fun. But he have that ability, to rush from everywhere, over the tackle, over the center, and definitely the ends. You got to know and count for him. So and he gonna bring the heat. He can win 1-on-ones, and that's what it's about. Winning the line of scrimmage and beating the guy 1-on-one, and he's done that over the period of time, and that's why he have 3 championships and where he's at right now, because he got it, man. He's got the whole package.
And George Karlaftis, I mean, what an edge rusher he's become. ESPN, I think, just rated him the most underrated player in the NFL on the defensive side. What do you see in a guy like him, and what do you think the potential looks like for a guy like him?
Kalafis, what I love about him is that every year he's gotten better. Every single year he's gotten better. In looking at his growth, when he first came, he was more of a power rushing type of guy. But now he's kind of letting it go. Now once you get into these years to where you like, okay, you're gonna get that feeling. No one gonna be able to stop me. No one can stop me if you want to go. And now I think that he knows, and that's why he become a great rusher. That's because becoming a great player, because he's getting that feeling. He's young, he's strong, and he's now thinking no one can stop him. And those 2 guys together, man, we just need one more piece. If we get one more piece, we can stay there. To help those 2 guys to make it happen. But we'll find him. Trust me, he'll be there, because reading them and those guys in the front office, they will find that person to fill that void.
Well, I feel like in the draft, I mean, they got some good guys there. Omar
Yeah.
Norman Lott, who had like the highest pass rush win rate among defensive tackles. Ashton Gelati got after the quarterback a lot. I'm wondering how much involvement those guys will get. Maybe not early on in the season, but I think as the season goes on and they get some experience, I think they're really going to add to that defensive line.
Yes, trust me. The camp will tell everything. You will know. I think whoever have a great camp and come in and sustain the spot. I think that those young guys going to feel in. They're going to avoid it, because you have to put some young guys in there to make them, to give them that experience. You got to trust them, and definitely you don't get drafted unless they know that they can use you. So that's what I think that the Spag and those guys done. So they've done a great job as far as drafting too. So I'm looking forward to the season, man. It's going to be super. It's going to be exciting, and I just love it.
It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to it as well. One last time before you go, the Derrick Thomas and Neil Smith Third and Long Foundation, the website, not numerical, just write out thirdandlong.org. And if you want a chance to win the Mercedes Derrick Thomas once owned. We have the QR code on the screen on Facebook and YouTube right now. Just scan the QR code right there. That is the Ultimate Ride, Derrick Thomas, Mercedes raffle. And if you want to get a chance to meet Neil Smith as well as fellow Chiefs Hall of Famer Tamba Hali, the 5K run taking place at Arrowhead Saturday morning. Neil, it truly has been an honor hearing all the stories.
Coming back and speaking to you again. Thanks again for having me.
Absolutely. I welcome that opportunity. Anything you have, you want to promote, I'd love to help you do that. Thank you so much, Neil. Appreciate it.
Sounds good. Thank you.
All right. Take care. That is Neil Smith, Chiefs Hall of Famer here on the Chiefs Zone podcast. That 90s team, very special. Very special. So glad we got a chance to talk to Neil and get his perspective on all of that. And of course, very close relationship with Derrick Thomas and being able to learn more about his relationship with DT on and off the field. So big thanks to Neil Smith. Big thanks to all of you guys joining us here on the Chiefs Zone podcast on a Red Friday. Hope you guys enjoyed this. If you like this podcast, hey, give it a share, give it a like, all that good stuff. If you're listening to the live version or the archive version on Facebook and YouTube, please give it a share. Let a lot of people check out this interview with Neil Smith. Spread the word about this. That is how we grow. I know you guys have been doing that a lot last year, this offseason, continuing to do that. So please continue to do that. That greatly helps out the algorithm, pushing the content, the interviews, the reels, the shorts, all of that stuff out there helps us out a lot. So please continue to do that. And thank you all for those who have done that. And once again, a big thanks to Neil Smith for joining us here on the Chiefs Zone podcast. My name is Farzin Vazougi, and we will be back tomorrow with another Chiefs Hall of Famer. Bill Moss will be joining us. That is going to be at 3 o'clock on Saturday Central Time. I'll talk to you all then. Take care.